Welcome to the Grappling Grappling Rewind Podcast.
Welcome to this week on the Grappling Rewind Podcast. So this week's show, we are going to recap BJJ Stars V, the heavyweights. We are going to preview Fight to Win 163 featuring Kennedy Maciel and talk a little bit of news. As always in the show, I'm your host, Maine, joined by co-host
Emil.
Kind of left some words out there for a second on the intro. Not a ton of news this week. First of all, how you been, Emil? It's been a couple weeks.
Great, man. It was awesome to watch BJJ Stars with you, man.
Yeah,
that was a great event. Awesome event. We'll talk about it, obviously, but it was just a lot of fun to sit down and watch like a premier, like world talent level Jiu-Jitsu event.
It was awesome. And then fucking Gutemberg Pereira. We'll get into this more in a minute. That dude went on a run, and I am super excited to talk about that this week because he fucked up my bracket, and that's always one of my favorite things to talk about on the show is like why I was wrong and like what a guy did to surprise me. So before we get into that, a little bit of news. Emil, you had actually a piece of news that I hadn't seen yet. Matchup announcement.
Yeah, Who's Number One announced a new matchup. This is Who's Number One, February 26th. Andrew Wiltse versus PJ Barch. That's going to be a scrappy match.
Yeah, that's a good matchup, actually. Like, both those guys, we haven't seen a ton from Barch recently, but like there should be nice size parity there and like a really similar skill set too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we saw Barch very little after his injury. I think leading up to ADCC, right? And,
he got injured at trials and then couldn't do ADCC.
And then
couldn't do anything else.
I think once or twice before the pandemic hit, and basically since the pandemic we haven't seen a whole lot of him, so I'm excited to see him back on the mat. PJ is an awesome grappler, very complete wrestler. Wiltse obviously has been featured a lot recently, kind of like a grindy American style like wrestling mentality. So it's going to be great. I think it's going to be an awesome match.
Yeah, I think they're going to both like hit each other really hard at the beginning. Should be like, again, stylistically very, very, very fun matchup. Wiltse's been taking out like top level guys recently. It's kind of to a lot of people's surprise to kind of has really put him on the map. He's beaten a couple trials winners. I think he beat John Combs. He has a major win, and I'm just blanking on who like the giant win that he has that kind of cemented him like, yeah, he's here to stay. So again, PJ Barch is another guy kind of on that level that, especially because we know Wiltse is very focused on ADCC, and so is Barch. I think there will be a lot of skill set parity there for what they're looking to implement on Who's Number One. So that is very, very exciting to me coming up, and I hadn't seen it, so that's always exciting. Emil, you looking up who it is?
Yep. So he has wins over Pierre Oliveira Leclerc and Pedro Rocha as well.
Okay.
Victor Silva, John Combs, Isaiah Wright, all impressive wins.
Yeah, good wins. So, also announced is the second female fight night for Fight to Win. Fight to Win on 160, I'm going to get it wrong, I think 165. I was going to say 167. On February 22nd, Fight Night, Female Fight Night 2 will take place in Dallas. And we have two title fights announced for that. We have Amanda Tubby Aliquin defending her belt, bantamweight belt, against Gabby McComb. Both those women put on like fantastic performances at the last Female Fight Night for Fight to Win. Man, Female Fight Night for Fight to Win is a giant tongue twister. And then we also have a welterweight matchup. The champion Maria Meliasic is going to be taking on Elizabeth Clay. Huge fans of both those ladies. And again, with Elizabeth Clay kind of recently stomping through pretty much everyone not named Rafael Geddes and Gabby Garcia, should be a really great matchup. I'm very curious to see if Maria Meliasic will sort of be able to implement the same game that Geddes implemented and sort of be able to shut down Clay's entries into the legs, or if Clay will do what she does to almost every other woman and
get underneath. Yeah,
give me that fucking leg. I gotcha. Like, that's been Clay's pathway to victory, and I'm very curious to see how Maria will be able to deal with that, because like no one's been able to stop Clay aside from Geddes and Garcia.
And obviously both of them are like very like they're some of the best at the pressure game.
Yeah.
And so, being able to try to mimic that's not for everyone's play style. So definitely curious to see how that goes between them.
And we talked about the match, like how Geddes was able to get it done versus Clay. There's like a very like extremely well planned fight IQ, and then because we saw her last female fight night put on an outstanding match, and it was absolutely nothing like her approach in the clay matchup. She fought Ana Carolina Vieira in that matchup, and was engaged in the legs, and was all over the place positionally. Versus in the clay match, very, very defined in where she would have the fight. I'm very interested to see how Maljasic will choose to play this versus Clay. A very, very good welterweight matchup for the ladies there on female fight night 2 for Fight to Win. So should be fun. Other than that, I have fuck all else from News Emil. Do you got anything else?
No, man, that's it.
Frankie Edgar got oblivioned into the shadow realm by Corey Sandhagen in 25 seconds.
God, I saw that highlight. That was brutal.
We don't talk about Frankie. MMA a ton, but God damn. But
seeing him and Overeem get put out to pasture like that was rough, man. I think for a lot of MMA fans.
It's like, man, Frankie, why you gotta do him like that, Sandhagen? A great highlight. Go back and watch the highlight, the Grappling Rewind chat, and actually specifically me and Simon. We're wild. He's like, "Have you seen this yet?" And I looked away. I was like, "No." And he posted the GIF of it, and I was like, "Ooh, Frankie, my man." So
yeah.
All right. So that's enough for MMA. Unless you got anything else, Emil, I think we move into the recap.
Let's do it.
Let's move into a recap of BJJ Stars V, when shit got real, and Maine and everyone on Grappling Rewind picked wrong. I don't think I have botched a bracket this much and botched picks this much in, I think, since the IBJJF GP in 2019. I think that's the last time.
The only consolation that I have is that also the Flow Grappling guys were surprised and were like, holy shit, we had Gutenberg as the 7th or 8th seed.
Which is where I had him too. So if you don't know, if you haven't watched this event, the individual matches are up. Go back and watch the individual matchups. The event was great. The only thing I can kind of knock him for is the pacing was a little slow. But if you're watching it,
the matches are great. And if you're watching it after the fact, that won't be an issue for you because you can just load the matches. Everything about this was a phenomenal event, aside from the amount of time in between some of the matches.
Yeah. And I do like the Flow guys even filled space. They talked about the match. It was a really, really good event. I love that the Flow guys took over commentary. It was Chase Smith and Howell Teague from Flow Grappling that did the English commentary. And I thought how they cut through and how they handled that broadcast remote from Brazil was great. I would love to see them be able to incorporate more Brazilian coverage like this, because huge fan. Oh, also forgotten news. Flow Grappling has now removed Flow 24/7 from the events list every day, so you can finally use the events list again. It's just actually events and podcasts and things that are occurring on the Flow website. So because Grappling Rewind no longer curates an events list, if you're looking for all the stuff broadcast on Flow, their list is now updatable and viewable. So again, Flow Grappling really, really picking it up there. So I'm super, super happy. Yeah, Gutenberg Pereira, though. What do you want to say? I picked against him in his first round matchup, in his second round matchup, and then he runs into Pena in the finals. And, Felipe Pena is something else. So, Emil, where do you want to start with this one? There's so much to cover. There's so many great matches, a bunch of super fights. What do you want to start with?
I want to start just first off painting a picture for the talent in this event, and then also just talk briefly about the event itself, and then we can go into the 8-man bracket.
Let's do it.
And go from there. So first off, this is what we had: Felipe Pena versus Luis Panza, Gutemberg Pereira versus Nicholas Meregali, Erich Munis versus Erberth Santos, and Lucas the Hulk Barbosa versus Yuri Simoes. I mean, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 world champs? That's ridiculous.
Give or take, yeah. ADCC champs in there, absolute champions thrown in there. It was a baller event. That's
ludicrous. I mean, that for an 8-man tournament, that is an absurd amount of talent. And that's what I was talking about in the intro, which is this is a world-class event in some cases. And in fact, I was thinking about this. Gutenberg Pereira's run was arguably harder than a world's run, right?
But dude, think
about it.
Gutenberg's first run is Meregali. His first matchup is Meregali, former world champion who looks unstoppable 90% of the time.
Yeah, Meregali, and then Hulk, who's another perennial dominator, and then you have none other than Pena, right? Like the person going against toe to toe against Andre Galvao, the person who submitted Gordon Ryan,
twice.
Like that's just ludicrous, right? Like that's an absurd run. So there's a lot of talent in here. Then the event itself was organized amazingly. Like, I love the format. 7-minute matches. Thank you, Jesus. I think, you and I talked about it, but the pacing in the matches were really good.
We talk about this ad nauseum, that like 10-minute matches, it tends to be 2 minutes of like feeling touchy at the beginning, and then it tends to be like maybe there's action at the end, maybe there's not. With 6 and 7-minute matches with this caliber of guy, they were action-packed the entire time. Yeah. Like, you didn't have that 2 to 3 minute, like, I'm going to play with my cardio, especially in an 8-man bracket. Like, guys will use that time to rest at the beginning because you may have to go 3 matches with world-class talent. That 7-minute time frame, like, guys were going.
Yeah, they were going. They were active. The production was great. The reffing was great. I mean, twice. There were times when, Maine and I were watching this remotely together, and Maine was like, there was a point where someone went out of bounds fleeing a submission, and Maine was like, that should be 2 points. And then they gave the 2 points. There was none of this weird calls. And then I can't remember what the other thing.
There was a really good reset where Busta Rhymes reset them.
Oh yeah.
And he's gonna move him, and then he gets another referee up there, and it was a really perfect drag to the center of the mat and a great restart. It was just like, it was all the stuff you want to see. There wasn't a ton of guys going off the mat. Like, it was just done really well, and it was lit well, and the audio was clear and clean, and it was just overall great to watch something like that.
You pointed out the boom camera, the camera angles were dynamic and really excellent.
I love and this is gonna be a super weird specific item that I like. When you have a BJJ event, there's a Korean promotion, Sub Royale, that does it where they keep the camera super, super low to the mat, and you can do it with a boom camera. And you saw a couple shots from BJJ Stars where they had this nice boom camera that was super low, and you're looking essentially at the action at the same level as the grapplers on the mat. And there's something about that angle to me that is just such a better production point. It's just so much nicer to look at it at close and at level versus the typical far side. You need infrastructure to do that, and it's nice to see that displayed. It's a really nice product there.
Yep. So all of that to say, the production was excellent. This is a wonderful event. Go and watch it. Let's get into the 8-man bracket here. So first match up, we have Felipe Pena versus Luis Panza. This went exactly how we thought it would. These guys met 4 times before. Pena is a beast. We know that. We did see a lot of 50-50 here and just in general, throughout the tournament. And Panza was using it to, keep Felipe at bay, which I think not a bad strategy. But what was interesting here was eventually Felipe, his balance is absurdly good. I mean, he is incredibly difficult to off balance in these situations. He was very good at just maintaining balance and then seizing the opportunity, moving up, scoring the points, progressing, and then the finish was just bizarre. I'm still wrapping my head around it, but basically Felipe had what you would call a guillotine grip, and it looked like it sort of. He was on top.
Well, we looked at it and we watched it a couple of times because it was super hard to figure out exactly what he had. It's listed as a guillotine. We thought it was a guillotine. We thought it was a neck crank. We thought it was a modified guillotine with the collar in or potentially with the lapel in. The angle is super weird.
I think the gi was involved for sure.
I mean, we couldn't see, based on the camera angle, Felipe Pena's other hand that would have been the top hand, almost like an arm-in guillotine from the mount. And Panza's head isn't deep in the pocket like it would be for a traditional guillotine, but Pena doesn't have his hands together like a barbo, not a barbo, like a it's like a 10-figure guillotine. There's another word for it, not a bolo choke, but It's essentially a modified. It's what Josh Barnett or Ben Rothwell hit Josh Barnett with in UFC. I forget the name of the choke. It kills me right now, but it's Panza's head isn't there. It looks like a modified guillotine with the lapel, and he just takes Panza's head off with it, and then Panza taps, and we all went, wait, what the fuck did he hit him with?
Yeah.
Which for me is always fun to go, like, when you never see a submission, you're like, what was that? That was cool.
But, it was Pena being Pena. I think that match was probably, between this and what I was wrong about the next one, Meregali versus Gutenberg, were the two matches that I thought were most, we knew what the outcome was going to be. I would say both of these matches were like top seeds versus bottom seeds.
Right, which is, and again, that's how you see it at a tournament. You typically put we thought, even before we had the bracket, when I previewed it with Josh last week, I thought it would be it would be Meregali and Pena on the opposite sides of the bracket. They would meet in the finals. I was wrong about that one, but typically, you'll have those guys go first and second versus the 8th seed and versus the 7th seed. Given that Pena has 4 victories over Panza in the last decade or so, it makes sense that you would seed them together, your top seed versus your 8th seed, and that was kind of a predictable match. I don't have a ton left on that other than it's a super neat and great work from Pena. I want to talk about this next match.
Oh my God. All right. So this is Meregali versus Gutemberg Pereira. This was the upset that caught everyone off guard. It caught me off guard because, again, like you, Maine, I had Meregali versus Pena in the finals.
I was like, Meregali's going to take this shit. He's going to do whatever he had to do for whatever side of the bracket he's going to be on, and then he's going to meet Pena, and we're going to get, this match. And then Gutenberg came along and went, not so fast. I am giant and very, very good at stalling guys out and forcing my game.
But, to Gutenberg's credit, so Meregali was playing guard here. Meregali's got an insanely dangerous guard. And Gutenberg was unfazed, and in fact was taking it to Meregali, doing insanely active passing, windshield wipering, neutralizing Meregali entirely, and very nearly getting through the guard multiple times.
That was the super surprise. Again, I know Gutenberg primarily is a guard player, especially in all of his super fights. His fight to win title run at heavyweight or super heavyweight, forget one. Look at his match with Tim Spriggs in that. Look at his match versus Erberth Santos at fight to win. That's the Gutenberg that I'm most familiar with in the gi. Is he is going to have this really unpassable guard. It's going to be a low output fight. And then he faces Meregali, is in Meregali's guard, and you see the top position work that he has. And he can actively start and push a pace from the guard in top position because he is so comfortable in the guard on either side.
And, I'm trying to remember, but in the first minute or so, Gutenberg racked up something like 3 or 4 ads. I think it was 2 ads, and he gets a 3rd ad later, and it was and then you watch the time is expiring. There's 2 minutes left, a minute left. Meregali now has to sweep Gutenberg Pereira. Pereira's up on points. Every time Meregali goes to engage the sweep, Pereira starts to get around and starts to get active and starts to put Meregali on the back foot. And we were talking during the match, going I don't think Meregali is going to be able to pull this out. Pereira is now consistently putting him on the back foot. And it was one of the kind of matches where it was less to me about the technical side of what they were doing. And it was more about something Orlando Sanchez said versus Nick Rodriguez. He took the initiative in the match and I was never able to get it back. Gutenberg... the moment when we were talking, when you were I don't think Meregali could pull this off, where I was I think Maine's right, was...
That's a rarity, by the way, for anyone that knows Emil and I's relationship.
Well, I just, for a while I was all right, Meregali's going to do something. And he was playing a collar sleeve guard where you take your leg and you put it up on the guy's bicep, your foot on the guy's bicep. And, you could do... a lasso if you wanted to. You could do a few different things. Meregali did that, and Gutenberg stuffed it immediately. And then 20 seconds later, Meregali goes back for it again, and I was like, oh, he doesn't have anything. Like, he doesn't have anything else up his sleeve. He's going back to the thing that's not working.
Yeah.
It was that moment when I was like, oh, shoot, this is like, Meregali's in deep water. And, I've seen it like once or twice before, but I did not expect Gutenberg to be the one to do this to him at all.
No.
And so, time expires. Gutenberg's up with 5 ads and gets the win.
Was it really 5?
That's what. That's what they got listed on Flow.
My notes are fucking wrong then. Again, it was a super impressive performance from Gutenberg. And that's by far the upset of the event. Like, no one picked Pereira to beat Meregali. And it wasn't even like a super close match. It was Gutenberg was dominant. And again, it's not a high scoring match, but if you were, again, exactly what Emil said.
There's sometimes when ads are they do tell a story, if the person is constantly having to regard at the buzzer and things like that, or they're hanging on by a toe, you're getting thrashed. That is a beatdown,
which is just not something we really ever see Meregali deal with.
Yeah.
So it was amazingly impressive work from Pereira, and that big step up to show that he is world top of the food chain, world class. And we'll talk about me being wrong about the next match that Pereira's in a moment here.
Another upset.
Let's finish the first round, and then we move on to that. Unless you just want to run through Pereira's run now. I figured we'd go through the first round first, though.
I mean, actually, the next one's an upset for me anyway. Erberth Santos versus Erich Munis. Munis ends up taking it by points. Munis basically pulled guard and had amazing 50-50, and this whole time Maine and I were sitting there talking about Maine. I think was the first person to put me onto this, but Erberth's leg lock history is deep and dangerous.
In the gi, especially, everyone kind of sleeps on. You think about, when you think leg lockers, you always think Gordon Ryan, Lachlan Giles, Craig Jones, even Cyborg occasionally. But if you go back and look at the caliber of guy that Erberth Santos has consistently leg locked and specifically knee barred at the world stage, Santos is a force, and he has 2 different knee bars, and one from 50-50 that he is, actually 2 from 50-50 that are very, very dangerous, that he hits frequently. I think I did a numbers crunch back in 2019 or early 2020, I think probably 2019 at this point, that was most prolific leg lockers in the gi, and Erberth Santos is one of the most prolific guys in the gi at the black belt level. So to see him enter the 50-50 with Munis, it's this is Munis forcing the 50-50, but Erberth being perfectly willing to play off the 50-50, and every time he gets under Munis, he's starting to turn the angle on his hips to throw his hips in front of Munis's hips, and you see Munis repeatedly have to stand and deal with this and push Erberth's knee down and stop Erberth from extending up and rotating through. Erberth is incredibly dangerous with the knee bar from 50-50.
And this, I think, was the match where, they even had a moment where they were doing the hip battle
yes.
to try to to get the sweeps. The most iconic version of this hip battle that I can think of was I think it was Miao versus Doderlin at one of the AJPs, where time is expiring and they are both completely lifted off of the mat, trying to get their hips higher than the other. We saw a version of this, I think.
If you're looking at the YouTube video, if you're not, basically, I'm making 2 peace signs with my hands, and they're intertwined with their legs, and they're basically, one guy's, they're both standing on one leg, with the other leg in the air, and their hips touching, and they're trying to get their hips above the other guy's hips to throw them
and
over.
Facing their hips down to the mat in the end to get the sweep. So we saw some battle there, and Munis definitely did an excellent job at maintaining and then closing the match out.
Well, even to close in the match, Erberth was still I love. We didn't talk about it because Erberth looked good in this match.
He did.
Erberth Santos showed the fuck up. This wasn't a Herbert performance. This was a Erberth Santos in kind of what is rare form nowadays, and competitive with top-level opposition to the end, finishes the match, basically, in essence, winning that sweep battle, going to Munis's back, but time expires, and he ends up essentially with the suplex position from the back on Munis, but there's no points. But competitive to the end, like showing us that, dude, if Erberth has his shit together, he can contend with the best. He's one of the best in the world. And so it's super disappointing to me to like not see that Erberth Santos all the time, because when we see flashes of it like this, where like an entire 7-minute match, he's composed, he's putting up good offense, he has good defense, he has good positional work, like an amazing grappler. And I just wish we'd see more from it. Not to take anything away from Munis. Munis looked outstanding here, but it is really cool that occasionally we do get a top world-class level Erberth Santos performance, and this was no different. This was one of the matches I liked the most because I'm a sucker for the knee bar. And so to watch like the various different crafty setups that Erberth has off his like hip and off his back and off his shoulders to enter into the knee bar. Go and watch Erberth Santos knee bar highlights, because there's 2 different knee bars he hits. One of which is like a jump through 50-50 knee bar, and the other one is the one he's trying to hit here, which essentially he goes to the knee bar and then rolls you over your own back to finish the knee bar. And again, you saw him setting up both of them, and it's just a treat for me. So
next up, we have Lucas the Hulk Barbosa versus Yuri Simões. What an awesome like round 1 matchup, right? Like tremendous. I had Hulk taking this, and he ultimately does via points. In part because Yuri is a beast, but he's been focusing on MMA recently, and like this is a gi tournament, and Hulk is insanely active. He's probably one of the more active world champions during the pandemic. Off the top of my head, I can't think of another world champion who's more active than him.
Cyborg.
Yeah.
I mean, but again, he's up there with like world-class guy that was on everything during the pandemic. Like there's a couple guys, but like Hulk was one of the most active guys.
Right. And so this went sort of how I had envisioned, with Hulk being dominant, hitting really good takedowns, and securing the pass. And once he gets to side control, just hunkering down. He does so well, which is just like he does this like squeeze inwards, basically. He's almost like curling the person underneath them.
It looked exactly like the Hulk match versus Lovato. And I called it leading into the match. I was like, I figure that, again, so we're not taking anything away from Yuri. I'm a big fan of Yuri. I love Yuri. I love his no-gi game. I look for him to have success in MMA. But whenever a guy makes the transition, and makes the transition as kind of like fully as Yuri does over to no-gi and then into MMA, there is like a lag period if they're actually taking MMA seriously, that all of the sudden their gi grappling will drop pretty significantly because they're focused on acquiring other skills. And like he's been striking, he's been kickboxing, he's been like wrestling. And so Hulk's been performing and been competing in the gi still, and Yuri has been focused on other things. Hulk's kind of focused on the MMA, but he's still actively competing in jiu-jitsu. We haven't seen Yuri in the gi in a year plus, I think, at least. And then so I thought that was like, this is going to look like the Lovato match, where Hulk's going to get past, he's going to hunker down in, and then about a minute or so left, he's going to start hunting for the arm and hunting hard on a guy that he's got positional dominance on. And that's exactly what happened, because that's sort of what Hulk likes to do. Like he will get his win, he will get on top, and then when he's secure in his positioning and he's ready to like burst on you with a minute left, he'll start hunting an armbar.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's I have nothing more to add to that. That's exactly how
fun
it went
match.
down.
Good
So
performance from Hulk. Happy to see Yuri in the gi. Again, I love when guys come back. It's just super hard to watch a guy come back immediately against top of the food chain black belt, like world champion level competition. I would have rather seen Yuri like maybe in a super fight here, but again, props to him replacing Ali on 5 days notice,
and hopefully staying active in the gi. That would be great if he comes back. So
big ups to him. Happy to see him.
On to the semifinals here. We have Felipe Pena versus Erich Munis. Honestly, pretty solid performance from Munis again. He was definitely hanging in there with Pena for a while.
Oh yeah.
But Pena is patient, and he's an opportunistic hunter, kind of like Buchecha is, where it can look like a stalemate or like very close for a long time, and then there's an opportunity that one of them will just seize upon, and that's a lot what this match felt
I think
like.
that's one of the things where Pena really shines as like a gamesmanship person, is that Pena will play, like, he's outstandingly great at jiu-jitsu, and he can play a variety of kind of different games, but if you make any little mistake with Pena, kind of much like kind of Gordon Ryan nowadays in Nogi, like, he can capitalize off such the smallest, like, out of position or force you into a place that maybe you overcommit a little bit. And that's what he does, I think, just 2 or 3 times here with Munis. Munis opens up a little more than he maybe should or maybe wants to, and Penn is able to take, like, almost a pass or, like, almost a sweep. He takes so much ground off of the little sort of errors that Erich Munis makes in allowing him to open up too much.
Yeah, so Munis actually scored a sweep pretty early on in this match. I think it was like a 50-50 or like tech up or something like that.
They spent a lot of time of this match in the 50-50 working that tech up as well.
And Pena basically was able to even it out, and there was 30 seconds left at the end of the match, and Munis was going nuts to try to gain more points at the end to pull off the win. And as the buzzer expires, Munis explodes into a absurd scissor sweep. Like, I remember just hearing Pena slam into the mat. Like, there are moments when you hit a sweep when it's almost like a judo throw where, like, the person is so off balance that they hit the mat in a fall.
Munis does it from the outside spider grip hook that he has on Pena, and then he throws the legs over and through, so he's fully on his side. He has Pena extended, and Pena just, like, almost goes with the sweep and immediately pops back up.
Yeah, actually, if you look at it, Pena does a really good job of twisting his hips and keeping them facing the ground. So he kind of, even though he's twisted with his chest facing, like, almost upwards, he lands on his knees, and that's what allows him to pop back up as time expires. But just the fact that he was able to get destabilized that heavy and slam into the mat that hard, awesome job by Munis.
Yeah.
But Pena is, he is the top of the game, and so
you don't win a bunch of world championships without being really fucking good in the gi.
Right.
Again, but this is another performance from Erich Munis that really didn't put me onto him, because we've been onto him for a little bit. He's a new black belt, but that shows you that he can contend at the top level. The ability to, at the end of the match, still be working good technique, not just sort of needlessly throwing up offense that's not going to ever, like, work. He's not just throwing stuff, he's throwing, like, thoughtful technique that, had he had more time or more opportunity, may be able to work. He's getting things to work at the end of the match, and that's always good to see versus, like, the crazy opposition that is Felipe Pena. Another really, really great match that I will go back and rewatch, because I want to learn more about Erich Munis's game, and I think that this is a really great learning match, because you watch a guy versus the top echelon, you're going to learn a lot more about his game than you are versus, like, maybe lower round competition. And so this is a learning match for Erich Munis, and I think he will come back even better, because now he's seen, like, oh, this is the top guy. I can contend with him. I know I can contend with him. I'm guessing the rate of improvement will be very, very rapid as he kind of eases into black belt more completely. It's also, I think, it's only his first black belt loss.
Yep.
So, super impressive.
Next up, we have Lucas the Hulk Barbosa versus Gutemberg Pereira. Gutenberg dethrones the Hulk with a ref's decision. So basically, Gutenberg pulls guard and closed it. And this was a this is a battle of attrition here. Hulk, content to kind of, like, hunker down a little bit and then pop his hips up, and a couple of times force Gutenberg to open the guard, but Hulk didn't, like, he didn't immediately start doing anything with it to fully complete the pass. He just, like, was able to break open the feet for the guard, and then Gutenberg was able to kind of like readjust, hip in, and then close his guard again. This happened a few times.
There's one thing I think we kind of overlook here is Pereira is fucking long. He's a very tall, very lanky guy. And one thing I noticed specifically in this match and a couple of other matches with Pereira is he can hold the guard from a very long distance. His torso is long, his legs are long, his arms are long, and he can reach with his like very long arm to the pant of his opponent, and he doesn't have to open his guard or get on his hip to do that. He can be fully squared up and reach and grab the underside pant of his opponent in the guard, whereas a lot of guys have to make an adjustment and get onto one hip to do that. Pereira does not have to do that. And so there's a lot of times when Barbosa would get up and open, or he would go to stand to break open the guard of Pereira, and Pereira would be able to grab under and start to pull Hulk's leg forward to prevent Hulk from being able to drive in. And effectively, even if he was able to open Pereira's guard, which he only did a couple of times here, Hulk was never able to really launch into aggressive passing because Pereira had his foot planted or had his foot pulled forward and didn't have to hip down to do it. And so it was a really interesting problem to watch Hulk try to solve because it's not something that most fighters at the weight class have the attribute to be able to do. And it was a very interesting little thing. I was like, oh, look at that. Like, I don't see that often. Most guys just can't do that.
Yeah. And, it was interesting to see this sort of stalemate happen, but Gutenberg was also active, destabilize or attempting to destabilize Hulk, and at one point even had closed his feet for triangle.
He rolls through and like lands in a not a really really tight triangle, but like the start of
triangle.
Yeah.
And Hulk is able to break out of that, and they basically reset. But it was one of those cases where the guard player was being, in my opinion, more active.
Yeah.
And so Gutenberg deservedly got the ref's decision there.
Yeah, we took this away, and I was like, I think that was like very clearly Gutenberg's. He was throwing up more, and in this match, it was Hulk attempting to work stuff, but never being in a place to really aggressively, begin to pass. And whenever he would, Gutenberg would open up his offense immediately, and Hulk would have to pull back. And that was the kind of what we saw throughout the entirety of the match. And I was like, at the end, oh, shit, Pereira should win that one. And the refs give it to him. And I was like, okay, cool. Well, I'm wrong again. So he beat Hulk, and now I'm going, okay. Well, now we're all on the Gutenberg train. Gutenberg's in the finals. He's in the finals versus Pena. Holy shit. Can he take on Felipe Pena? Spoiler, he can't. But, oh my God, Gutenberg Pereira is going to have the upset run. He's already had the upset run of the year. How's the Pena match going to look?
Right. I would say that's going through those three is harder than a world's run. Going through Meregali, Hulk, and Pena, that is such an absurd run. And so, yeah, we were definitely rooting for Gutenberg, not because I don't like Pena, but just that's such a great.
It was so hard because I'm such a Pena fan. I was like, come on, Pena, you can do it. I was like, I should totally be rooting for Gutenberg right now because the underdog, and you were too. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I'm gonna root for him with you because to be able to. I was super excited. Let's talk about the finals match. Felipe Pena taking on Gutenberg Pereira. Gutenberg Pereira on the run of his life coming against Felipe Pena. What do you want to do?
Both of these guys, I mean, they basically, Gutenberg also, I'm not saying that this necessarily, was the reason why, but, he looked a little tired going pretty early into this match, and so he grabs kind of from a double seated open guard, kind of a long distance 50-50, not fully hip to hip, but you can see them battling it out there, and clearly Gutenberg wanted to have Pena tied up. He he did not want to give Pena
did
room
a
to
really good job keeping the space with the stiff arm on the pant leg. Like, he did a very good job, and there were some places where you could see Pena kind of wanted to tech out or tech up on it, and he was very measured in the fact, okay, I'm going to hold this pant grip, I have it here, I have the leverage I need to stop what we're doing, and then when the opportunity comes, and that's why, one of the reasons why Pena is so good, like, when he picks his opportunity to go, and he locked out the pant grip a bunch of times in the 50-50, and then when he was willing to go, kind of, Pereira looks for, like, kind of trying to take the back, Pena gets on top.
Yep.
And that was like, and that was the story of the match. Like, Pena did the thing he needed to do in that match off of Pereira trying to get something going, making a little too much space with the hip, getting around, and it was like, cool, I'm Felipe Pena. And then begins to start passing, like, tries to start passing in, like, on Pereira.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's where it ended.
And, yeah, that's how match expires. So, Pena is up and wins the heavyweight Grand Prix. And this is a stacked 8-man tournament. So it's a big accomplishment for Felipe. Hoping to see him on the regular. That would be great.
I would love to see it.
I mean, you and I were talking about it, but Pena is someone that we see, like, sometimes only, like, 2 or 3 times a year.
I mean, we talked about since 2019, he has his loss to Galvao at ADCC, which he was, like, super sick for. And, like, I interviewed him on the Third Coast Grappling podcast probably 6 or 8 months ago, and he opened up and talked about, like, what was going on during that camp. And, like, I'm not going to pull out of ADCC, but, like, I was super sick. He had throat surgery, like, immediately after ADCC, and then he had a super fight, I think at BJJ Bet versus... I forget who it was, but he lost that as well. And then to see him come into 2021 after, like, essentially, like, 2019 that was super tough on him, into 2020 that was super tough on him, and then come back in, still show that, yeah, I am still in top form, was awesome. I hope that we see more from him. Like you said, like, we don't see him very often anymore, and it's kind of a shame because he is, the technique he displays here is great, and I love to see when world-class guys keep doing world-class shit. Yep,
exactly. So, particularly at heavyweight.
Yeah, heavyweight's a fun division. So, great event. Go back and watch it all.
This event also had some great super fights. We can just run through them, and if you have something you want to say, we'll do it. Leandro Lowe submitting Erich Munis with a really slick little collar choke from knee cut pass.
He wasn't even finished with it. He just, like, he got to, like, the 3/4 knee cut pass and was like, nah, I'm going to set my hands and work this choke. And then you saw him work it. Alex was defending the choke. And then Lowe just, like, you see him change his hand grip and then go for it. And you're like, oh, snap. He's not even going to pass. And then Alex gets up and taps for it. Great to see Lowe. Lowe looked dominant. I think somebody texted me about this match, actually. And it was like Alex took this match as a replacement because I think Batista pulled out.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. Erich Munis, very talented, just now starting to have a BJJ Heroes page, has some...
I hate how that's our metric, like, just getting that BJJ Heroes page now, which, yeah.
I mean, but yeah, like, that is to say, like, Leandro Lowe is an accomplished world champion across many divisions.
5-division champion. Ain't no one else like Leandro Lowe.
Right.
By the way, always think he's like 45 years old. He's like 31.
Yeah.
He's like he's younger than you. He's like older than me, but like just barely. So it's like, all right, what have you accomplished? Thanks, Leandro, making me feel bad. Great match.
We have a phenomenal matchup: Izaki Bahens versus Roberto Jimenez. Bahens taking it via points here. This match started off with both of these guys going ham. Pretty big size difference here. Bahens looking like, pretty stocky compared to Jimenez, but that was not phasing Jimenez.
Well, I think they looked similar. I just, like, for me, I wasn't used to Bahens looking this thick. Like, homie looked in rare thick form now. Like, that is not the size of Bahens we typically see. Like, he bulked up for this. Jimenez looked super, like, he looked big but super lean. Also, I think he shaved off his eyebrows, which threw me off a little bit.
Jimenez did, yeah. But like, actually, this was one of the matches here that where you had talked like about what the refs should do in this situation, and they just immediately did it. Was Azaki Bahens throwing up a really nice heel hook, and they had to gator roll off the mat, and that's when you were like,
I was like,
that should be 2 points.
I like disdainfully went, that should be 2 points, and the ref just goes 2. I was like, oh fuck yeah, I'm down. This is awesome. Like they did the right thing. It's sweet.
Yeah. Yeah. So fleeing a submission.
It was cool to see though, because we know that Jimenez historically has been weak to the heel hooks, and when Bahens threw this up, by the way, his name is Azaki Bahens or Azaki Bahanis. I'm gonna call him Azaki Bahens because like
that's what the announcers were doing and the commentators. So
we know that Jimenez is historically weak to the heel, not weak to the heel hook. It's not Pokemon. Historically gets caught in the heel hook by occasionally, and so it was really nice to see him immediately address the knee line, immediately roll the right way. Like it was the decision making that we love to see from him, in that like immediately addressing the problem effectively and properly. It inevitably leads to him like losing via points, but it was like him not getting caught, him learning from prior matches, and like showing really great development there in this match.
Yep. But Bahens is able to maintain the lead and pulls off the win via points. But like both of these guys, and they put on a very entertaining match.
Yeah, super fun, super high paced.
Yep.
I was super curious if Roberto was going to be able to do the double, like the guard, double underhook back take. He got it going a little bit once on Bahens, but Bahens did a really good job like disengaging the position and like knowing where Roberto was going to be really strong. And so like good gamesmanship on good awareness on both sides, but like great to see Bahens. He's a fun guy. They're both super fun guys. This was another fun match with nice developments on either side.
Yep. We also had Tamara Ferreira versus Bia Mesquita. This was, Bia is incredible. She's back as dominant as ever, and Tamara was significantly bigger. There's a pretty big size discrepancy here, and Bia was the one pushing and dictating and pushing the pace, truly, and throwing up some really good submission attempts too.
And the commentary talked about kind of the contrast between their first match and the second match, and like how Mesquita just like the pace difference in this match that Tamara never really was able to get into her element to get things going. Mesquita's continued to like near pass, top pressure, finishes it with like a heel hook attempt, gets a takedown. Like it was just all Bia Mesquita in this match, and it was Bia's wasn't. I wouldn't say rare form. Like this is the Bia Mesquita that we are familiar with, and she looked amazing doing it.
Yep. So great to see her competing. And we had Miltino Vera versus Gabriel Rollo, and Rollo takes it via armbar.
Yep.
And
one more. Everything is out of order for what I have now.
We had also Marcio Heiss defeating Leon Amancio via points, and we had Vitor Terra defeating Percio Broca via points as well.
Yeah. So that's all I got for BJJ Stars. We kind of talked about the event at the beginning of it. Emil, do you have any other pieces that we didn't cover already that you want to add about it? It's a great event. Watch it.
It was just a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun watching it, and it's nice to be able to sit down. Hopefully, they put something on again soon, because this. Oh, you know what I want to say? I'm beginning. What I love about the tournament format over the super fight format is stuff like Gutenberg, where you have a run and suddenly you get to follow this trajectory and narrative, and it builds up tension between the matches. And even if a match is like, close or slower or a decision, it's still super exciting because the result impacts the trajectory of the tournament.
Yeah.
And so that is something that I was reflecting on a lot. And so, just awesome event.
Yeah. it was great. That does it. So, moving on to our preview of Fight to Win 163. This one is headlined by a 155-pound title match between Kennedy Maciel and Diego Oliveira. Dude, Kennedy Maciel, he's been competing. He's the 45 champ, I think, in the gi. He went and fought Junior Ocasio no gi at catchweight of 140. Ocasio was the 135-pound champion. Finished him via armbar. He is now going up to 155 to fight Diego Oliveira, multiple-time Grand Slam winner for AJP, top, newer black belt, I think also 2019 black belt. What do you want to say about this match? This should be really fun. Kennedy is a gangster. He's just like, yo, 45, 35, 40, 55, I'll fight him.
I love these like youngish black belts that are, up and coming, trying to make names for themselves, and also like not cherry picking who they're going against, just like being like, yeah, I'm down. Give me the next champ. Give me the next champ. Give me the next champ. I'll get all the belts. Super exciting.
I'll get all the belts. Like, thank you, Kennedy. I appreciate you for getting all the belts or try.
Yeah,
at least going for all the belts. I don't want to dismiss Diego Oliveira here, but
as you mentioned, like Oliveira has a bunch of I think 4 AJP Grand Slams, which is no joke. I mean, those are on par frequently. Well, certainly better than like competitive opens, and sometimes on par with a major.
I mean, they're majors for AJP. They're like, under the AJP rule set, which Emil and I are both a much bigger fan of that 6-minute rule set, typically highly action-packed, guys that can actively go for the finish, defend, and like run at a pace because AJP is so aggressive with the stalling. He's also a third place at the Euros.
And also has a win in, he has a first place in a King of Mats as well, which is like, the super meat grinder of the AJP, where they take all the past champions, they put them into an 8-round double round robin, tournament, and to win one of those is a very big deal. Yeah. And then
he's a third place in that.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
my
third
bad.
place in King of Mats. He has 2 Grand Slam wins, a second place at Abu Dhabi Grand Slam in 2020, which is very recent, and his third place at King of Mats was from 2019. But he does have that third place at the IBJJF European Open in 2020, which was an actually regular European event that was before the pandemic. So very top level grappler. We haven't got a chance to cover him a ton. Has a bunch of really good wins. I'm honestly going to be honest. I'm going to be real here. I'm not as familiar with his game as I should be. I'm very excited for this matchup. We're much more familiar with Kennedy's game here. I assume Kennedy's going to come out super aggressively, super quickly, especially if there's a size disparity. That's something that I don't think typically bothers Kennedy. He's going to come in hard and fast. He's going to look to put you on your back. He's going to look to get on top, and he's going to look for the arm. That is what Kennedy's like. We may also see him go Darce here or Bravo, but given it's the gi, I'm leaning towards he takes the arm, just because that's, especially in the super fight format, that's what we see Kennedy typically trying to go for. He likes the arm bars in a very big way. So look for him to hunt that. But Diego Oliveira, absolutely no slouch. 155-pound title match. Any other kind of points on that one?
Mm-mm.
Next one, we have Pedro Marinho taking on Matheus Luna. This should be super fun. I also am super biased because I absolutely love Pedro Marinho's game. We know what he's going to do. One thing that was very different in the past for this match is I am very curious to see what pace Pedro Marinho comes out with for this. He typically tends to fade a little bit towards the end of the match, but given it's a super fight, it's not a bracket. Can he run with Matheus Luna at the pace that he's going to want to keep for the entirety of the match? Or can Matheus sort of weather the storm with the snap downs and the go behinds and the wrestling of Pedro to sort of wear on him and put him in deep water later in the match? That's the dynamic of the match that I see here. Do you see anything different, Emil?
I can't comment. Don't know enough about these guys' games, but certainly I'm sure it'll be an awesome match.
Yeah, should be fun. Next one, we have I assume, a super heavyweight fight between Max Jimenez and Tex Johnson. For some reason, I think that Tex Johnson is still... See, Tex Johnson has, I think, 3 belts with Fight to Win. I think he has the Masters super heavyweight title in no-gi. I think he has it in the gi. I think he has the light heavyweight title in no-gi, maybe for Masters, maybe not. I don't remember. I know Tex Johnson has 3 or 4 different belts for Fight to Win.
Do you think that this is a gi or no-gi match?
I don't know. Because both guys are gi and no-gi fighters frequently. Like, they both compete in both. I would venture that it's gi, but again, just looking at this matchup, I can't say with any certainty at all. I think in the gi, I'm gonna lean Jimenez. Again, I can't get it out of my head.
That's how I was thinking too. Like, if it's a gi match, I see Jimenez being able to really dictate and put a lot of pressure on Tex and
that Buchecha match. Like, I just keep thinking of that match that Max Jimenez had versus Buchecha at Worlds 2 years ago.
Yep.
Like,
being able to control Buchecha for a significant portion of that match.
Yeah. And win that match until Buchecha decided, nah.
Yeah,
like that's the match that Buchecha was just like, oh, I'm losing. I better not do that. And it was like, what the fuck, Buchecha?
Extra gear, dude. Yeah. Like, that's a whole different story. But, if it's a no-gi, then obviously Tex's arsenal opens up a whole lot. And I could see him definitely, getting one of his patented leg locks.
Yeah, I'm guessing that Tex is going to pull here regardless. I think we're going to see Jimenez on top. Given the size of Jimenez here, I'm very curious to see if he's going to be able to sort of shut Tex's guard down and force Tex to play, instead of the butterfly guard he likes to play, a more closed guard style game here. That's sort of what I'm wondering.
I could see Max flattening Tex out. Yeah, absolutely.
But I don't know. But Tex is another guy that's notoriously hard to flatten fully. Like, Tex will invert on himself and go out. And he's a very flexible guy for how big he is. And I'm curious to see if Jimenez is going to be able to deal with that. And again, we've seen Jimenez deal with big, flexible guys before. So I kind of anticipate Jimenez taking a really, like, almost like a slower, more grindy match, gi or no-gi from the top. But at any point in time, gi or no-gi, if Tex gets your leg, he's terrifying. Yeah. Like, he is the scariest guy to grab your leg. He has the outside heel hooks, and he has the straight ankle lock. Probably one of the scariest straight ankle locks.
Yeah, they come on instantly. You know, it's like he's insanely fast with them. So
I mean, go look at Texas match in the gi versus Matt Layton in one of the early sub-spectrums. It's like he just grabs Matt Layton's leg from the single leg X and just like lifts and just turns it. And you watch the shin like bend, and you're like, holy shit. All the gifs of Tex Johnson breaking baseball bats with his forearm, like, scary matchup. I foresee Jimenez being able to weather the storm early in the gi, flatten Tex out, get on top. In no-gi, it is anyone's game. I see Jimenez's path to victory there. I also see Tex's path to victory. Very excited for this one. I assume it's for a belt. Like, it's not listed as for a belt, but I assume that this is for a belt. I would kind of be a little disappointed if it wasn't, given that Tex has so many belts and Jimenez is such like an absolute beast on the food chain at super heavy or ultra heavy or one of the heavyweights that I don't have the chart printed out for anymore for IWJJF, because we've done this show for years and I still, for the life of me, cannot remember what anyone's weight class is.
Yep.
Thanks, Grappling. But should be a lot of fun. That's all I got, Emil. You got anything else?
That's it. That's all I got.
All right. So, any fun plans for the week other than be at the house in a pandemic?
That's it. I get to go home briefly, which will be nice. One of my cousins is getting married. Did kind of like a last minute proposal thing. So he has a very small ceremony going down. So I'm gonna go up for that. But yeah, how about you, man?
I'm chilling at the house, doing the same thing I've been doing for about 8 months. I'm trying to do my PT exercises so my back hurts less. They're better.
More than 8 months, man.
I mean,
we're coming up on a year.
I know we're coming up on a year, but the first 3 months we're like, hey, we're doing this. Like, you're inside. Oh, it's crazy. Now it's just like, all right, man. I just live at the house now, and I get groceries and I make food, and then I work out in my basement and I pull the mats out. Occasionally I train with Rachel, and Occasionally I go hunting. Hunting season's now over. I don't do that anymore. It's also cold and snowy here, so I don't do much outside. It's just like I got nothing. I got nothing for the outro. What are you gonna do, man? I don't know, man. The same shit I've done for 8 months, and just like produce the podcast and just like watch a lot of YouTube.
Yep.
Like YouTube is the homie apparently. Like that's all my YouTube's just speed run videos as far as the eye can see. Every world record progression video for speed runs that I can watch, I've watched. Any summoning salt video I've watched. Like that has been my pandemic experience. Pretty great, not gonna lie. But yeah, that's what I got. I got nothing fun aside from I watched a bunch of lasso guard instructionals last week because I hate my non-understanding of the gi, and I'm committed in 2021 to actually learning the names of all of the shit that we see on the show.
That would be great.
I'm committed. Like I now understand like 4 basic lasso guard sweeps, and I'm like, okay, like an old dog can learn some new tricks. So here's to becoming better in 2021. But that's all I got for the week. So
sounds good.
As always on the show, I'm your host Mange, my co-host
Emil,
and we are the Grappling Rewind. You see on the mats whenever that is. Stay safe. If you like the show, please consider sharing it on Facebook with the folks at your gym. It's the best way that we grow the show, and we really appreciate it. You can reach out to us on email.
We also have Instagram. We have Facebook. We have Twitter. We have Google+.
Until that shuts down.
We have a website.
If you have an event you would like to have us cover, please let us know. If you have a name, like most people do, and you'd like to have us stop butchering it,
let us know.
Reach out to us. The show is also available on YouTube, Spotify, in addition to iTunes and every other podcast service. We very much appreciate your time, and thank you.